just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Let the darkness take control. Let the darkness take control. Darkness take control. May the darkness take control. Take me in slow, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start locking eyes. Lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but I'm in the dead of the night. Teardrops on the floor. The pain is over. Feel the darkness take control. Darkness take control.
Welcome to AfterTalk, where wrestling goes beyond the mat. Here's your host, the Glamazon Delisha.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to AfterTalk, which is our sister show of AfterMat. Because apparently you can't have a conversation by yourself about wrestling, so we had to do a whole new show about well, it's not new because we've been doing it for about a year now, but we had to do a whole new show about just talking one of our favorite subjects, which is wrestling, which is almost how we all came to be here. And again, like I said, and can't do it alone because discussing things by yourself leads them to calling medical doctors on you. So I'm joined here by my two of my favorite people on this planet. We have Miss Tricky Nikki and the voice of the voiceless, Cal. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good, much better than last week. I've been sick, so, I'm not trying to be sexy with my voice, just so everyone knows.
I'm glad to see you're doing better. And but before we get started, I just want to make sure we give a shout out because one of our After family, it's his birthday today. So if you guys know what our guests that we usually have on WrestleMania, the Road Dog, Raj. So happy birthday to Raj. Make sure you hit him up. Well, he doesn't have any social media. He's off the grid. He doesn't even have a cell phone. So he's really weird like that. But happy birthday to Raj. If you guys see him on comment on one of his videos or something. I guess on my videos where he features or something. But happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday, Raj. We'll send you a raven.
That's the only way to get in touch with him, really. But thank you for having me, because as you guys know, I am a big fan of The Rock. So
really, I didn't.
What?
I know.
Listen, I don't think there's not a person sitting here that is not a fan of The Rock. Like,
and if anyone says they're not a fan, they're probably lying in their closet The Rock fan. Just saying.
You know what? I'm trying to think of anybody who isn't a Rock fan. Because there are some great athletes out there that people aren't fans of. We won't mention names, such as in basketball and stuff. But as well as Daniel Bryan, no one really likes him. Or the players. But I don't know. Can you guys actually even think of anybody who's not a Rock fan? Like who has nothing like my hatred for certain people, like certain basketball star, as well as some
LeBron
wrestlers.
James.
Yes. You know, he is doing some good stuff outside of wrestling, so I have to give him that. I do say that. But other than that, like, out of wrestling, outside of basketball, but this is not a basketball talk show. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if anybody is not a rock fan. Like, I don't know. Oh,
Yeah,
I know dad.
people,
there you go.
I don't
know
know
people who are rock fans for wrestling, but like they hate that he's an actor. I don't know if that counts.
I guess because I don't want LeBron as a basketball or being considered the greatest of all time. He's a great basketball player, but to be the greatest of all time, there's certain things you have to meet, certain criteria, and I don't think he meets a lot of those.
You have to be Michael Jordan.
Well, not only that, like I don't think he was in the top 5 if you think of the greatest of all time. But like for The Rock, you know, if you guys watched the last episode of After Talk, he might have been doing well in the tournament for the greatest of all time. So he does check off boxes. And for acting, yeah, I guess you don't have to consider that because if your passion is wrestling, and he leaves that to go do something else, but then you can't also be the same person who complains that, oh, here comes the superstars back, and now people like, you know, Finn Balor lose their opportunity. And I'm not, you know, I can't think like, you know, Andrade. There's, like I said, it's always a machine that churns people in and out, and you have to like give way to the new people. And I know Delicia's gonna get to that later about what The Rock could still do if he can.
Yeah, it's definitely like a cycle, and yeah, I don't know anyone personally who, or like, never met anyone like in person who does not like The Rock in some form or fashion, whether it be for his they like something about him, but I'm pretty sure because of the internet, there's going to be someone who says they don't, but because you know the internet, but yeah, he is just one of those.
But they're
people.
liars.
Yeah, they're totally no, because they can't back it up with an actual reason, then they're lying. But yeah, he is one of the biggest stars to have that crossover appeal to hit like all of the facets of entertainment, whether it be.
I don't even want to say he is the biggest. I think I have to say, like, it's not even he is period the biggest.
Oh, true. But I'm just saying, like,
Batista is trying to work his way there, but he ain't there yet.
I didn't even mean just wrestling. I just meant that in entertainment, in general, that hits all the demographics, whether you're a child, woman, man.
Oh, I'm counting that.
Young. I mean, no, yeah, I was just saying, like, all across the board.
Have you seen the Forbes list of highest paid actors this year?
Yeah.
I know you're probably gonna get to that, but someone topped that. No spoilers yet. But I don't think Batista's even on the top 10. I don't think. Nor is John Cena for people who are counting for like wrestlers who've crossing over. Nor Hulk Hogan, I should say. But I don't think he'll ever be.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about Cena.
So I'm just passionate about this topic.
I can tell. But so let's get right into it. We did want to give a little brief history about The Rock because, you know, there are some people who just know him as an actor they might remember, oh yeah, he did that wrestling stuff years and years ago. But there are people, especially children now, who are growing up who have only known The Rock as an actor. And we're here to educate you all, so you don't forget your history, because it shapes your future and your present. Anyway.
And wait, sorry to interrupt you, though. I just want to let you know, this first topic is called Petrology 101, because petrology is the study of rocks. So here's a brief history.
Wow. See? Cal's already educating us on what we're actually doing here today. So he was born in Hayward, California, which is funny because I actually thought he was born in Hawaii, but he was not. I probably would have known that if I remembered his biography that I did read years and years ago, but I was still a child. I was not yet an adult yet by legal standards. But one thing that probably most people do know by now is that he is the son of WWE Hall of Famer Rocky Johnson, and his mother is Atta, who is more known for being part of the. I always Yeah, I always not say that word right, and I want to be respectful. Because his grandfather was the great Haji Peter Maivia, and he spent a lot of his youth in various different cities, including, I think, in the Pittsburgh area. He spent some time here in PA as well during his high school years playing sports. I don't remember a reason why he moved around so much. I don't know if it was because of his dad being a wrestler, like traveling a lot, or I don't know if he specified in his biography. I call it The Rock Says, not an ad. The Rock Says dot dot dot. Of why he moved around so much. But he did speak about his troubled youth of getting into fights a lot of times and just getting in trouble in school. Although he did get decent grades, but he just was a troublesome child. Um, much of the word probably of his mama. Um, but and he also to go back to the cities, he also spent some time in New Zealand, and then he would spend some more later time in the islands of Hawaii, which is why in my mind I probably thought that he grew up there, but because he spent a good part of his later childhood on the islands, and most notably before he became or got into wrestling, he was more of a football player, which apparently I feel like in that family is like a rite of passage of like football player, athlete, college, wrestling. I don't know. It's a trend here if you go back through a lot of the that particular family's lineage of schooling. A lot of it was athlete, usually a lot of it football on the male side, and then wrestling. Anyway, that was a sidetrack. So he went to the University of Miami. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that like he wanted to be a pro football player. Like that was his dream, but then he got injured. And
Yeah.
that's actually why he went into wrestling. Like it's not like he was like, "Oh, yay, I'm going to go do wrestling." Like
Oh no, I was just saying
got
as
injured.
it was a side note. I've noticed a couple of that family members, a lot of them played football and then wound up becoming a wrestler sometime later on. Usos, Roman Reigns. I think even maybe not Umaga. I think maybe one of them. Anyway, we're not talking about them. We're talking about The Rock.
Oh wait, welcome to Big Time. And Big Time says they were in Hawaii and his grandmother's wrestling school got shut down and they started traveling.
Thanks, Big Time. Thank you. He's taking over Joe's job as fact checker. But he did go to the University of Miami, and after graduating, I think he got his degree in like business management. He did attempt to go, like Nikki said earlier, to go into the Pro Football League, the Canadian Football League, as a linebacker, but he would be cut 2 months into this season, or maybe even practice season, because of an injury, to where he would now be stuck in Canada. And this always like stuck out to me. He's talked about this a lot in the interviews and especially in his biographies, that he was like in Canada alone. I think it might, it's cold up there, even though it's like August. Anyway,
can I interrupt for a second about his college days?
Sorry?
Can I interrupt for a second about his college days?
Yeah.
So he played on the Miami Hurricane team, which is a really good team. Like, had greats, even Hall of Famer Warren Sapp played there, who actually took Rock's spot after Rock got injured. But The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, we should say at that point, played in 2 bowl games, and they actually did win a national championship, defeating the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So it was actually a successful time in Miami. That's why he wanted to go into pro football. Unfortunately for him, like his injuries impeded that, and that's why Delisha said he had to go to the Canadian Football League, which also further got impeded. And he did end up sleeping on like piss-stained mattresses and stuff and all that. He was saying that he'd find mattresses in garbage cans. Because I read the same biography that Delisha was mentioning earlier. And like he'd find them in dumpsters, and wherever he could find dumpsters, he'd dumpster dive and stuff like that, and sleep on that kind of stuff. So he really was like, that's why kind of like the rock bottom is kind of like a good move for him. The name for the move, I mean, because he was at one point at rock bottom.
Yeah, and that moment has always stuck with him, because he would say he legit only had $7 to his name, and that was also the reason behind his future production company, $7 Productions. And I think it also may have affected part of the reason why he's so humble, because he got humbled by life really quickly and early on into his life. And that would be because of not being able to pursue that football career that he had envisioned. He would go ahead and start to follow up in his family's actually footsteps, not just his like father and grandfather, but like a whole legacy of family. In professional wrestling in '96, I do know he trained. I think he trained a little bit in Canada and a bit in the U.S. And my mind is blanking right now because I didn't write it down in my notes of who he was trained by before signing that contract into WWE. But he did get signed in '96, and it was McMahon and the creative team who would want him to take on that name of Rocky Maivia, much to his chagrin. But WWE, as even all of us know today, they love a legacy story, even back then. So with him being a third generation superstar, they really wanted to push that, and so he would be called the Blue Chipper by the announcement team, and was pushed very heavily by a management and creative team as this like clean cut baby face, being pushed to the top for titleships, even though they didn't really give us, I say us even though I wasn't watching at that particular time, they would really give us a not a storyline behind or a character of Rocky Maivia for the fans to get behind.
Well, can I say, even before that, he started out. Pat Patterson discovered him really, or I guess through his father's connection, and had him have some tryouts with WWE, and then he went to Jerry Lawler's wrestling association. And if you guys remember, he was the name Flex Cavana, which was like an inside joke I think he had for a while when he wrestled in Jerry Lawler's association. And then he finally came back to WWE, signed a contract, and he was brought up with Mark Henry. That's why they kind of had the later on connection in the Nation Domination. I think, and for the person who trained him is Dr. Tom Pritchard, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's starting to make come back to me. So I remember seeing the word Pritchard, but like, I know someone else with that name. Anyway, but as much as we know, when you put a superstar in front of the crowd and you push them and you start telling them who to cheer for, we don't like that. So he would get booed heavily. And you think it was bad today, it was bad back then. All chanting of chants of, die, Rocky, die, and Rocky sucks, although that's not as bad as die. I mean, I don't know why. Why would you chant that? Anyway.
Well, let me tell you, there's a guy named Daniel Bryan.
Fans. Because wrestling fans know what they want. And when the WWE decides they don't want to give it to us, we let them know heartily.
But to say you want a man to die, that is harsh.
Well, so let me ask you this quickly, because we have a kind of a connection with people who, like you said, are shoved down your throat, that are supposed to be the next big thing kind of thing. With a relative of The Rock, we have Roman Reigns, right? And Roman Reigns kind of went through the same thing. Like, he was big time when... Well, the thing is, he wasn't... The Rock was hated from the beginning, right? Roman Reigns was accepted in the Shield, and then when they tried to push him as the only solo guy, like, as a solo guy, he was hated on, like, really hard. Why hasn't he had the same response as what the people did with The Rock? Is it because he's not as charismatic? No one's going to be, like, as near as charismatic as The Rock on the mic, but you think it's because of his mic skills? Because literally, that guy almost died, like, Roman Reigns.
But we weren't calling for it at the...
absolutely.
But I do think it had to do with, we didn't know who Roman Reigns is. We know he's the strong man that was in the Shield, but we never really got to know who Roman Reigns is or was. And so...
He wasn't even the leader of the Shield. Like, Dean Ambrose was the leader of the Shield. Roman Reigns was just the silent muscle. And then all of a sudden they were pushing him to be like this person. And then when he does get on the mic, he's just terrible. Like, he doesn't hold your... I'm just like, can you just shh, and just wrestle? Just shh. No more talking for you. You know what I mean? That's what made him so good in the Shield, is he didn't have to talk.
That too. He did have Seth and Dean to do a lot of the talking for him. And I do also think that a lot of the fans now, because of the internet and all the blog sites, we're a lot more smarter nowadays. So I think we're easily more able to tell when they're just spouting out a script versus taking what they're being told and, you know, fashioning it into their personality. Again, might not even be given the allotment to do that, because as we saw when he took off, I almost said the shield, when he took off that shield of Roman Reigns and was just John, when he gave his leukemia announcement, he got to speak as himself, and so there was some personality behind that. And when he came back, there was personality behind that, and you know he was going up on that uptick, and then 2020 happened, and yeah.
You bring up a really good point there with the whole social media aspect, because now every day we're kind of molded and hit from different things, different angles, and all that. Back then with The Rock, it's like either you watched it on Monday night or you know SmackDown as well, because SmackDown was introduced later, but you watched it on SmackDown. Like those are the only time you really saw it, and then if you went in person, so we weren't as swayed as much as now, where we can get like daily, even hourly updates about a certain person via the social media and all that kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Only rich people had cable for pay-per-view.
Yes, that too. I never got to watch pay-per-views back then.
I didn't either.
Me neither. I think my first pay-per-view probably came when the network came about. To be
Same.
honest. But I was gonna say, much like his future cousin, of Roman Reigns. Once we got to drop that facade, and they kind of they loosened the. Here goes another part. They loosened the reins a little bit and let him speak up on his own after within that first year, even though he won these titles, IC title, and he did stay in that mid card, what we call mid card tier of the IC title, even though back then it's more held in more highly regard, and dropping that to I believe Owen Hart. And he suffered a knee injury. Once again, injuries plaguing him, and he took some time off, and would later come back in '98 to join the Nation of Domination, which was Farouk, D'Lo Brown, and Kama at the time, with later to be joined with Mark Henry. And we got to see a whole new persona, a heel persona, in which he would start talking in third person a little bit, and really come in with the attitude, and really start laying a little bit of that groundwork of the charismatic persona we would get to know later on. And
I want to interject again. Sorry. One real pivotal point or player in this whole thing that we don't really know about backstage, but doing some of my research for this episode, is Bret Hart. People don't really know about that, but Bret Hart played a major factor in like saying, "Hey, let this guy hold the IC title for a while, because I feel like he has a future in this business. I see it. Maybe the fans don't see it at this point, but I really do see him, because Bret Hart saw something in him, because Bret Hart's one of the most charismatic people prior to The Rock, along with Ric Flair and stuff like that. But Bret Hart really pushed for Rock or Dwayne Johnson to be a superstar, and so thank God for him, because we might not have who The Rock is today if not for Bret Hart pushing him at the early years of being Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, and I feel like things like that still hold true today when you have someone, even if they may not even be a veteran, but someone who has a little bit of clout in the backstage, who sees something in you and knows potential, and they speak up on your behalf, can a lot of times really turn a corner. And actually, I feel like not even in this industry, just in life, sometimes all you need is that person to see, that potential in you, and like help either speak up to you or speak up to someone who could also help you, just push you in that right direction. And that direction was stardom for The Rock, because as he got more mic skills, and as we would see between the years of like 98 and 2000, even though he was a heel for a good portion of his life, and we're getting into that attitude era that we all know and have loved so much, being that heel persona, again, talking to that person, insulting the crowd, insulting his opponents, it really caught on to where the fans were like, why are we even booing you? We love what you're saying. And it really just flipped the switch to where we're not booing you, we're cheering you now. And sometimes I feel like sometimes that's even a little bit of a rarity today. Maybe because everything is so programmed now that there's not a lot of off the cuff works or shoots going on a lot. But I feel like back then the fans really got behind this guy and they saw what he was trying to do and convey to them, and they were like, "No, we're not going to boo you. We're going to cheer you." Excuse me. And to where that also catapulted him into, the fans really want to see him, whether he's a heel or a face. He's going to be on our television screens practically every night. And, of course... Oh,
sorry. Do you guys think it was like The Rock and Stone Cold, or maybe prior to that, maybe prior to that, Ric Flair? I don't think it's much prevalent with Ric Flair, but definitely with Rock and Stone Cold, where kind of started this time period where people enjoyed heels more. Do you think that's what kicked off this, hey, we can cheer for the heels now?
I think so. I feel like especially with those two in particular, because they could go off the cuff. They could, especially when it was them two in the ring, they really have that energy that they can feed off of each other, and the crowd just ate it up. Especially when it was Stone Cold and The Rock to that extent going off against an authority figure in Vince McMahon. They had him to also bounce off of, and the fans, the fans was like, wait, I like what this guy is doing. I'm kind of, like we're watching a television show. I know it's athletic, it's live, but we're still watching a television show to where, these are characters of people that we like, and you were like, I like what he's doing. I don't want to boo, I want to cheer. And I was like, I hate that villainous McMahon guy, so if anyone going to oppose him, I'm going to cheer. But yeah, I do think that is kind of like a kickoff point of, wait,
anti-heroes.
We can cheer for the villain. I mean, the bad guy, so to speak, because he's not really that bad. I actually kind of agree with some of the words that he's saying.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, wrestling is a world where, even in the 90s, like, there are superheroes, there are supervillains, and that is exactly what it is. And then, like, you get the Attitude Era where, like, your supervillain is the man, right? The corporation. And the heels, I'm not sure if it was for the first time, because I started watching in the Attitude Era because that was when I was a kid. But, like, I really feel like something that might have been missing before that is the fact that the bad guy was Vince McMahon. And you're putting these heels in there that the people who are watching this are like, oh, I mean, sure, yeah, they might cheat or whatever, but at the end of the day, they're actually deserving. In the same way that when they turned Becky Hill and everybody was like, who cares? She's deserving. Like, and the people were behind her. It didn't matter that they turned her heel. And I think that was true, for The Rock in this particular instance, because you're sticking it to the man, and, like, who doesn't like sticking it to the man? The Rock wasn't a supervillain. He wasn't a bad guy. He was just like, this guy's a bad guy.
We actually have a lot of chatter in the chat that I want to get to for you guys. Sky says The Rock was iconic in an era where there weren't many restrictions, which is very true. If you think about it now, you can't really pull off stuff that The Rock pulled off now, just like stealing a kiss from a girl, talking about their pie and all that kind of stuff. Like, nowadays it's not maybe as kosher to say, but back then, like, that he really thrived in that era. Added on that the whole Attitude Era was heel first. Everyone thought heel first. A good example of that was, he said it was the NWO. Even though it was a different company, the NWO was a big point that heels were awesome and cool to cheer for. And then I was saying how it was the anti-hero, and Entertain added to that, saying you had Spawn and the Punisher, which are great anti-heroes in comics that Nicole was mentioning as well. It's just, this is when being a bad guy, or even like if you think about Razor Ramon, bad guy, people cheered for him, but he ended up becoming a face pretty soon after the whole 1, 2, 3 Kid thing that happened when he started facing Shawn Michaels, one of his best feuds. But yeah, at that point, they weren't really bad guys; they were more like anti-heroes, much like Dean Ambrose was when he was, lunatic fringe Dean Ambrose kind of thing. So, but yeah, this is a great time. I think this is one. We always say that one of the Attitude Era was probably the golden age of wrestling at that point, even on both brands. Both companies. I shouldn't say brands, companies at that point.
Yeah. And with as we know that WWE is, or WF still at the time, it's very much, as you said, influenced by what's going on in the outside world or everyday world, or more importantly, a lot of like Hollywood pop culture world. And I guess at this particular time, it went to maybe the reverse, to where now pop culture was paying attention to, or the people in charge of pop culture, not in charge of pop culture, but in Hollywood, were paying attention to this little charismatic guy known as The Rock, and gave him his first acting role as the Scorpion King in The Mummy Returns back in 2001. And I distinctly remember this because there was a field trip at school in which they took us to go see The Mummy Returns. I don't know why they took a bunch of 10-year-olds, but that's where we went to go see. So that was fun, and it's also scary for 10-year-old me, which is probably another reason why I can't watch horror movies as an adult. But with the success of, I won't say but with the success of Mummy Returns, they actually asked him back to do a lead role of that character, the Scorpion King, for his own title movie, The Scorpion King. I know nowadays there's a lot of flack on how, bad it is, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. Even
the highest grossing WWE film in the history of the WWE.
And
it is.
I think it's fun. I know everyone points out the bad CGI.
There was no CGI. Everything was real.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it was.
And I want to mention that it got a phenomenal review from Booker T and Goldust at the movies. So go back and watch that clip on YouTube. If you can find Booker T and Goldust review The Scorpion King, go ahead and watch that, because you'll laugh for days.
That's our Cisco and Ebert right there. But the fickle fans, they don't want you to succeed outside of WWE. You are a wrestler. You wrestle, and because The Rock has now had gone out to do movie things to a more at the time of 2001, 2002, the really only other person that really was getting that kind of notoriety between movies and wrestling was Hogan back in his era. So I guess the fans, I don't know what they were thinking. They were like, "No, you're a wrestler, you're supposed to stay here." So we started booing him again because you are trying to do two things at once. Again, fickle fans. Wrestling fans, we are weird.
You know what though? Like, as much as we talk about Hogan now, back in the day, like, I was never a Hogan fan. I was always like an Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart fan back in the day. But when it comes to like movies, I did like some of Hogan's movies. I forgot what was the one, No Holds Barred. I enjoyed that, stuff like that. And he was in Rocky 3. I did enjoy Hogan in the movies. So like, he was that icon back then. As much as, we talk about what happens now, but back then he was an icon. He was probably like the greatest icon. And I know I had to convince you guys to move him on to the first round of the greatest of all tournament, but he was probably the biggest thing. He is what, like, Babe Ruth is to baseball, Jordan is to basketball back then, stuff like that. And like I said, Joe Montana was to football back then, and then all that kind of stuff. Hogan was that name, and I think I guess we're probably going to talk about it in a little while, but he did pass that torch to another icon, because they had an icon versus icon match, and then they tried to do that years later with The Rock trying to pass the torch to somebody else, but that person wasn't as good. He actually made a movie about firefighters, so he probably put that torch out because that's how bad his career ended up being in movies.
But now the fans, again, the crowd has turned on The Rock yet once again, and yet he still rolls with it. It's like, okay, you're gonna boo me, and I'm just gonna flip it right back on you. And again, I wrote down like you just mentioned, the biggest, maybe the start of that was that icon versus icon match at WrestleMania 18, where it was the Rock versus Hogan, where actually Hogan was gone in as the heel, and The Rock was our face opponent. I actually don't. I even though I watched clips of the match, I don't remember why they were going against each other. Do you remember?
Oh, so at No Way Out, the NWO made their debut at No Way Out, and The Rock was fighting somebody at No Way Out. He went to the locker room, and they're like, Hogan's like, "Can I get a picture for my kid?" And The Rock's like, "Sure." So they took a picture, and then they made fun of The Rock as he turns back, walking away, saying like, so much for the people's champ, ha ha. And then, NWO laughed at him. The Rock turned around and says, what? He goes, The Rock did a favor for you. The Rock stood after having a grueling match to take a picture with you, all that stuff. And then, that kind of started a feud that boiled over from, because No Way Out happened to be in February, prior to WrestleMania being in March or April back then. So it carried over, and every week it had, the NWO attacking and stuff, and they ended up attacking The Rock, which had the marquee match of The Rock versus Hulk Hogan. I think it ended up being it might have been, no, I don't know if it was the final match, because I think Jericho fought Triple H in the final match of that WrestleMania for the Undisputed Championship, but that happened to be, the biggest match of the night, The Rock versus Hogan, because all those Hulkamaniacs, so I think it happened in the Toronto Skydome, which was where Hogan had one of his other best matches ever against the Ultimate Warrior, which Edge was in the audience for that at WrestleMania 6, so it was just a huge moment, and all those Hulkamaniacs from back in the day, we're seeing Hogan back in WWE for the first time wrestling in a really, really long time, especially at WrestleMania. It tore the crowd in half. So that's why they were cheering for Hogan, because there's all those nostalgia. And as for me, I was cheering for The Rock the whole way, because I was never a Hogan fan. It brought me back to shades of WrestleMania 6 of Ultimate Warrior, because that's when I fell in love with Ultimate Warrior. And I was like, oh, thank God, The Rock won, because I couldn't stand it.
And and talking about on the fly, it's there are other previous instances of that, of wrestlers going in heel or face one way and then coming out totally reversed. But in this instance, it just became iconic. Okay, I guess.
Oh, sorry. And Jazz defeated Trish Stratus after that match. So it's Jazz versus Trish Stratus, then the main event. So that was
Gotcha. And so they decided within that, in that match, that okay, the fans are taking this match one way, we're gonna flip it to where The Rock wasn't totally being heelish, but he was doing some heelish things to try to win. And as then progressing to the later on the year, the fans just continued to boo and boo, and so he flipped that switch onto full on heel, but still as being almost kind of Hollywood Rock, so to speak, but still being the same charismatic. I almost said enigma, but that's reserved for someone else. Being that charismatic persona that even when you're being insulted, you're still laughing because he's that entertaining. But he would go back and forth for the next couple of years between 03 and 04. Even though he was relegated a lot to the SmackDown brand, as he got more brand deals, so to speak, you would see him on Raw more, to where in 04, he would let his contract run out. And unfortunately, I don't remember what his last match was, but his last appearance before retiring from full time was unfortunately judging a Diva Search a stint for a pie eating contest. It is what it is. But it shifted The Rock into the next phase of his life as a full-time actor. And while the beginning of his career had its big up and downs, that's real. But his hard work and persistence in doing 50 million jobs a day shifted him into the international movie superstar, entertainment superstar. This is not just movies that we know of today. And as Cal was mentioned, we learned last week, I believe, that he was crowned for the second year in a row as the highest paid actor of them all. And this little wrestler that could, from back in '98, that people were chanting "Die Rocky Die," is now one of the most entertaining, highest paid actors of them all. And whether you like his movies or not, we go to see them. And
Sky says, aren't wrestlers full-time actors anyway? Yeah, pretty much. But the rest athletes, I don't know how to say it. But one thing about it is I think his first, I know he had a lot of roles like Rundown and stuff like that. But I think his first role where you actually could see his acting ability. Not saying he's the best actor, but where he actually puts good acting in was because he's always a good comedian. But to see serious acting was Walking Tall, which is a remake of an old film. But yeah,
what? It wasn't the Tooth Fairy?
What?
It wasn't the Tooth Fairy?
We don't mention the Tooth Fairy. Only person who mentions the Tooth Fairy is John Cena, and we could talk about how well his career went too. But yeah, Walking Tall. Just like John Cena, people don't see his movies either. So, yeah. So, The Walking Tall I think was a good movie for his acting ability. I think he did a good job, but he was still a comedian in that as well. But he most likely plays comedic roles. I think he was also in Southland Tales as a supporting actor. I don't know if he was serious in that because I never saw it, but I think he played a gay character in that. So a gay bounty hunter. I don't know what he was exactly, but I think Sarah Michelle Gellar was also in it as well. But yeah, he was enjoyable.
I think the movie that I really remember him making an impact on, and I mean, like, I went and saw movies like Doom, okay? Because, like, I love really bad video game movies. I just do. And, but, like, I think the movie that I remember seeing and being like, oh shit, like, The Rock can actually act was The Gridiron Gang, which was based on a true story. Yeah, where he's not funny in that. He plays like a football coach for the kids who go to like juvie or whatever. And like I remember thinking, oh wow, The Rock, might have something here. And then, he started popping up in a whole bunch of other stuff. But for me, that was like really a pivotal turning point was The Gridiron Gang. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I love Gridiron Gang. That was a great movie. I just actually bought it a few weeks ago on Vudu, and I watched it again because I love that movie. So it has a good message too. Like if you watch it about because it's about gangs and stuff, and like how rival gangs you put them on a football team together. Because like Nicole said, it's a true story. You put them on a football team together, they learn to work together and become teammates, become a family. Yeah. So yeah, I always said Rock is on Titanic. He was the iceberg. I always
he was the iceberg.
Yeah. You name a movie, I can tell you The Rock was in it. Any successful movie, The Rock's in it. So, and I'll tell you what he played in any successful movie. That's the game.
Yeah, like I said,
we were all thinking it when you said Titanic. Every one of us was like, he was the
it's something I say in PlayStation party chats. That's why he's bringing it up. Because Randall, it's a joke about Randall because Randall sees all these movies that are fake, and Delisha probably sees the same movie because they all believe in all these like weird independent movies I've never heard of in my life. And I'm like, I only watch good movies like Marvel movies and movies with The Rock, and like I should say comic movies and movies with The Rock. And he's like, well, what about Titanic? It was one of the most highest grossing films of all time. I'm like, well, The Rock was in it. He's like, what was The Rock playing? I'm like, he was the iceberg, duh. And then he'll like name any movie, and I'll tell him what The Rock played in that movie. So that's how it works. Rock's only in good
That's
movies.
fantastic.
Yeah. Like I said, the first movie that I do remember clearly saying The Moment Returns and Scorpion King. I don't care. I like that movie. I don't care what people say. I like it. I did watch a lot of the Disney era Rock movies, as they call him, with I guess some of the like stinkers, so to speak. But kind of like Denzel, The Rock isn't usually the problem with those movies. I mean, I'm not comparing their acting skills. I'm just saying, much like Denzel, who's never bad in a movie, whatever you think of the movie itself, The Rock himself, I've never had a problem with in the movie, because he's just that charismatic. I don't know, but
to that point, I want to say is think about how many people they've tried since The Rock to be like the next person that they could branch out from, and because they're not going to try to milk them for money in WWE just from their merchandise and their name, billing their name, but they can try to milk them in the movie industry as well. They tried people like Randy Orton, The Miz, Kane, which I did enjoy Kane's horror movies. He did a good job in those. The only person who obviously John Cena, we all know. I think Roman Reigns, Summer Rae, Charlotte Flair. I think someone who's actually not known for doing like movies, who does movies and actually is actually fun to watch because of his charisma as well and personality is The Big Show. He recently just got a movie on Netflix. A series on Netflix. But movies like Knucklehead, and I think he was in Ready to Rumble, but that was when he was in WCW. But he's really a fun-loving, charismatic guy, a gentle giant, and he's really fun, just like Princess Bride with Andre the Giant. People loved him in that role, correct? That's kind of like Big Show modern day, right? And I feel like he is great in the... Because if you think about all the people... Nicole, but Dean Ambrose also was in like Marine 17 or whatever it was, and all that kind of stuff. Like, There's a lot of stuff out there, and these people haven't been successful. And I feel like The Rock, it's just, even Stone Cold, right? They tried Stone Cold in a few movies too, and he was arguably the bigger name than The Rock at that time in the Attitude Era, and Stone Cold hasn't been doing as well. So it's something about The Rock, right? I'd have to say that it has to be something about The Rock that's kept him going through all this.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, guys mentioning Thunder in Paradise. I love that show on TNT, or TBS, which one of the two was on. It was a great show about a boat, and it was like Bruce and Barber Beefcake, and was also on it. El Gigante was also on it once in a while. Sting was on it as well. But Hulk Hogan was the main star of Thunder in Paradise. Great show.
So
Yeah.
I want to say that I think The Rock's success actually comes from the fact that the people who like The Rock are not just wrestling fans. Like, my mom loves The Rock. And I mean, like, she makes me go see every single Rock film. She follows him. She got Instagram and Twitter just to follow him. And I mean, like, she's like 56, and I mean, she loves The Rock, okay? When I told her I was getting a Rock poster for the home gym, she was like, oh, which one is his shirt off? And I'm like, Mom, keep it in your pants. Like, but I mean, here you are, middle-aged suburban woman who loves The Rock, and I know she can't be the only one. And now her new man is Jason Momoa. She's like super in love with Jason Momoa. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the reason why The Rock is so successful is literally because it goes further than just wrestling fans. Like, so many people I know, and now I'm a educator, and my students are 16, and they were talking about Baywatch, the movie Baywatch, and they were like, yeah, Dwayne Johnson. And I was like, oh no, I've reached that point in my life where I am so old and the people I teach are so young that they now know him as Dwayne Johnson instead of, The Rock. And it's just weird. It's weird.
Well, speaking of, introducing him to a new generation, how did you guys get introduced to The Rock? I guess, and were you a fan of him when you first saw him? Nikki, you want to start?
I was gonna let Cal go because
No, you go. I've been talking enough. You
okay.
go now.
Well, and I do apologize, you guys. I'm sure many of you can see me like coughing on camera and stuff. That's why I've got my mic muted the whole time. I'm still getting over a lower respiratory infection, so if I start randomly hacking, that's why. You know what? For me, I actually don't remember how I was introduced to The Rock. Like, I just remember that I would watch wrestling with my uncle, and one day, at some point, the thing I remember the most is getting in trouble because I jumped off of the couch to do a rock bottom on my brother while screaming, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?" And I got grounded. And like, that is what I remember about like being introduced to The Rock. So I'm not entirely sure at what point I became a fan, but if I was doing his finishing move off of the couch onto my brother, I was absolutely a fan already. So it probably was after, his first appearance, because I would say, it may have been like the really like 99 or 2000, I want to say is around what time that would be, because I'm not super old, but I was like 9 or 10 when I did that, so which would be 98, 99, somewhere in there. So I don't really remember how I was introduced to him, but I remember getting in trouble when I was about 10 for doing a rock bottom onto my brother. It was not successful, and please do not do that to your younger sibling.
It's actually pretty similar to why I became a fan of The Rock too. Because I knew of him because I know I started watching 99, 2000, start watching more religiously, because I think it was always on because of my grandfather, because he would watch WCW and WWF like throughout my childhood. And but my people were the Hardy Boys, the in education, like the new kids on the block, so to speak. So I guess actually it's probably more 2000, 2001. But my cousin, who is a little bit 2 years older than me, and my other cousins, when we have sleepovers, we would also like watch. We would also watch wrestling on a replay that we had recorded on a VCR, guys. If anyone knows what that is anymore, and we would also play wrestling with a bunch of pillows and sheets on the floor as our ring. And my cousin, one of them always wanted to be The Rock, and the other one wanted to be Stone Cold. And I would just be the ref, and so they would just start spouting out a lot of his like catchphrases. And then again, now that I'm in tune to watching wrestling, recognize those phrases now on TV. And I was like, oh, this guy is actually pretty funny. And he cusses because he said that he's gonna whip that guy's candy ass, and I thought that was funny at 10 years old that he was cussing and not getting in trouble for it. Although I couldn't say it, and I didn't know why. And so it is really just watching this man just be entertaining, even at that young age, not knowing why his mic skills were good. I just knew I liked the funny things he was saying and insulting people. And from then on, I just been a fan to this day.
For me, I knew him since Rocky Maivia, and I wasn't really a fan of his until he was part of the Nation Domination, because I was really, me and stables. I love stables. So, it's just Sky said that he got him for the Wyclef video, which I think he's probably joking about, but who knows? Maybe not. If you watched wrestling back in the day like I did, I'm sure he knew him prior to that. But yeah, for me, I knew him since he was Rocky Maivia, but I wasn't a fan like most people. I wasn't one of those people who screamed, "Die, Rocky, die." I didn't really have much of a hatred for him or anything like that, as I do for other people, or superstars, I should say. But yeah, he was always all right. But when he became part of the Nation Domination, because I love my stables, I loved him then, because they feuded with the Hart Foundation. They feuded with DOA, I think it was called, Disciples of Apocalypse, which is that biker group back then and stuff like that. Oh, did Raj show up?
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday, Raj. Welcome. How are you?
Happy birthday. Salute to you. This is not alcohol, it's water, but still,
The first time I saw him was when he saw Cow Palace. So was he Rocky Maivia then, or was he The Rock, Raj? But yeah, for me, it was Rocky Maivia. I wasn't a fan, but until he became The Rock pretty much as part of the Nation Domination, I loved that. And I saw him at SummerSlam, I think it was 88, or was it 92? I can't remember which one it was. Wherever the main event was, Bret Hart versus Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels as the guest referee. Might have been SummerSlam 92. But Rock performed there as well in part of the Nation Domination. And that's when he started, I think, first sowing the seeds of dissension amongst them. But yeah, it was fun. So since Rocky Maivia, but I wasn't a fan of his. I didn't hate him, though, like many people did. But yeah.
Okay, so you weren't at home chanting "Die Rocky"?
No. He wore a lot of blue, and blue is my favorite color, so I don't think I could hate him for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And any other story? So we got Roger's story, we got Sky's story, right? Anybody else mention anything? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I didn't see. But Sky just said that was legit. He did get introduced to the Rock through that Wyclef video.
That's a long time after, because that's when the WWE started making like
bridging gaps.
That's like around your time, probably, right? Or maybe after your time.
Yeah, Yeah, I think it was 2002.
Because they started doing those music collaborations, with Limp Bizkit and all that other kind of stuff. So, and then they started making the rock versions of everyone's songs. So.
Yeah, I was rewatching one of his matches, and because I was watching on the network, so they still have those old commercials in there too. I mean, the WWE commercials, the WWEF commercials, and one was for the music CDs that they would put out, and it was the special edition of The Rock, of The Rock singing a song about pie, and I just thought. Also, what's funny is that this exclusive came with its own, The Rock's own current internet browser, and I was like, man, times have changed. Anyway, that was sort of a side substance. We were talking about music and what they do now. Now we have Spotify playlists curated by CFO $.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm trying to think of like any other time. Like, I don't know if I saw The Rock's last Raj, did we see The Rock's last match, or has he wrestled recently? I can't remember. I know he did some like stuff to help Roman Reigns at one point, but I don't know if he wrestled after we've seen him at WrestleMania. Was it 29? I guess it was. Has he wrestled
Against
since?
Cena?
What, against Cena for the title?
Yeah, that might have been his last like official with the ref in the ring match.
Yeah. Oh, because he did like beat up Luke Harper or something, right? Or somebody like at one WrestleMania where they came out and they just brought out a ref and he just like beat him up and like squashed him in a few seconds. Eric Rowan, maybe Eric Rowan or somebody. Yeah, I don't know. So I guess it was.
Yeah, because you got those.
I know. I know he did not wrestle at Dallas WrestleMania, but he did come out with a flamethrower. That was dope.
Oh, and he lit the sign, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome. Better than wrestling. I would rather watch him do that than wrestle anyways.
I was saying, much like a lot of people that I love, he could just read the newspaper and I'm like, I'm all for it. He should do that and just to see what happens. Just through a surprise stream, like go all Beyonce and just drop him just newspaper.
When we get to one of the topics, I have something about that though. When you get to another topic.
In case The Rock is watching this, I have a home gym and it's COVID, and if you want to come work out with me, that would be awesome. There's a poster of you hanging up in my garage gym. Oh my god, I would die. I would literally die if The Rock came and worked out with me.
You know,
I always squat like The Rock is watching, okay?
The WWE is always watching our shows, you know that, because they steal my ideas and they put them on the program. Actually, I met someone on the cruise, on one of the cruises I went on, and they told me, because they're from Florida, because we left out of Miami. We actually left out of Miami. And they told me they went to the University of Miami, and when they were driving off leaving campus, they saw the Rock's pickup truck coming in, and they stopped, and he actually stopped and took a picture with them and everything. It was really nice.
That's awesome.
So, I was glad to hear that, you know.
It's also glad to know that people are actually nice in real life.
Those are the people I still cheer for. So, if I actually met Daniel Bryan or Charlotte Flair, and they were nice to me in person, I'd have no choice but to cheer for them then. Damn it. Gonna make sure to avoid them. Felicia and I will be at our next event, and she's like, oh my god, Daniel Bryan's right there. Let's go. I'm like, nope, walking the other way.
I turn around.
Nope, I'm not going. That's so true, though. Like, how, I mean, especially when you meet celebrities. Like, I've been fairly fortunate. I haven't had any celebrities that have been just total douchewads, but, I mean, they're out there. The kid that played Joffrey on Game of Thrones, he actually stopped me. I was like walking past and he was on the end of the booth and I was dressed as Agent Venom. And I guess he really likes Agent Venom. So he like yelled from his booth and was like, can I have a picture with you? And I mean, like, you know, he's like a little 16-year-old kid. And I was like, yes. Can I have a picture with you? Like, it was great.
When I went, no one was in his lane. Like, no one was there for an autograph for him. But it was also like a time changeover, so then after I finished...
No, but there was just this big long line, and he was in the middle of talking to a fan and, like, squeed, and was like, and I was like, oh my god, like, it was weird because it was, like, reverse, like, you know, like, I should have been like that, but, like, he was like, oh, and I was like, okay, yeah, of course you could have a picture, and thank goodness my face is covered, or, you know... I probably would have been like, sorry, everybody in his line. He just jumped off the stage thing, came over and took a picture with me, and I was like,
I'm hoping one day in my life I get to meet The Rock. Like, I usually get lucky. Like, Raj, you can ask Raj, whenever I walk around somewhere, like, somehow I've always bumped into celebrities. For some reason, it's so weird. So I'm hoping my one day that I get to see The Rock, like, I bump into him. That'd be, like...
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
I want that for you.
It's always funny, because, like, I'll probably be wearing a Stone Cold shirt when it happens, because whenever I meet a wrestler, I'm always wearing a Stone Cold shirt. Out of like no thing, like Big Show's ex-wife at the time, like even said that to he's like, he's wearing a Stone Cold shirt. Why are you gonna give? Because I met him like he was like outside my friend's house going to a wedding, like, and he was outside my friend's house because they were like a big bus, and they were going to like the cocktail hour or something, and it happened to be right outside my friend's house, and I was like, I have it on the gas seat. I still have it to this day. Like, they're so funny.
Mm-hmm. Well, we mentioned a few of matches earlier in our stream, but I wanted to know specifically what was a storyline or match that really stood out to you involving The Rock. Doesn't even have to be like your favorite or that's what you know him from, but if there was a segment or a match that was like that really sticks out to you, even without even having to look it up. You know what that match or storyline was about.
For me, it's definitely. I'm pretty sure it's WrestleMania 17. I just want to make sure I'm right about this because I'm like 99. Yeah, I'm definitely right about. Okay, I was like 99% right about it. I just want to confirm before I make an idiot of myself. WrestleMania 17. Everyone knows. If you don't know now you know. The Rock's probably biggest feud is Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they fought I think 3 different times at WrestleMania, maybe 4 because I think the Stone Cold won the first 3 and the Rock won the 4th, whatever it was. But yeah, the Stone Cold's the biggest feud. However, the biggest match though was for him was WrestleMania 17. Besides the Hogan match that we were talking about earlier, 17 because that if you haven't seen it, look it up. Here's another thing for you to look up on YouTube is look up the promo leading into that match with My Way by Limp Bizkit for the WrestleMania 17. It is by far the greatest WWE promo package to set up a pay-per-view match in the history of WWE. WrestleMania 17, My Way, main event promo, Limp Bizkit for Austin Rock. Great stuff. My friends and I always acted out as well because that was such a beautiful promo. We lost Alicia. But yeah, so that's when Rock was the heel for the corporation. Stone Cold was the face, the anti-hero coming for to dethrone the corporation or knock out go against the man or however you want to call it, stick it to the man. And it turns out in the end it was a double switch because The Rock ended up becoming face at the end because Stone Cold turned heel on The Rock by aligning himself with Vince McMahon. It was one of the best endings to WrestleMania ever because everyone's behind Stone Cold until he turned and joined alliances because at that point you guys know Stone Cold never liked Vince McMahon, but he sold himself to win the WWE Championship or WWF Championship, I think it's at that point. That was probably the biggest storyline match and promo. Do yourself a favor, check out that promo.
Is that when JR was shouting out "Not this way"? Was that that match?
Possibly, I think so. I'm gonna look for the.
I think a lot of matches have JR in my head with some line.
I'm sure he said that several times for a lot of things.
Probably.
But
my favorite feud was probably Triple H and The Rock. Like that's the one I remember the most. And it could be because like I was a huge Undertaker and Kane fan and I followed the storyline where they were brothers and blah blah blah. And like I remember this one Raw thing because again, remember this is the 2000s and if you weren't rich, you didn't have cable. And if you didn't have cable, you didn't have pay-per-view. And then pay-per-views were like $50. And so like, I never got to watch pay-per-views. But I remember on Raw, like this feud being a really big deal. And there was this one Raw, and it was like Raw is war or something. And I remember like it was Triple H and The Rock, and they were, wrestling. And then all of a sudden, Kane and The Undertaker come out because I forgot who was on Triple H's side, but there were like 3 dudes and they were like kicking the shit out of The Rock and The Rock was losing and I was like, no, and it was a title match. Like this was a title match. The Rock does end up losing in the end, but I remember The Undertaker and Kane coming out and being all like throwing everybody around and being awesome, and then The Rock like slips and he like accidentally beat The Undertaker with a chair, and then The Undertaker, because he's The Undertaker, he's like and then he gets pissed and hits The Rock, and then Triple H wins. But like I remember the Triple H Rock feud, like the best. And then I found out later, and this was before YouTube and stuff. So there weren't like I couldn't go look at clips and things, but I know that like Backlash 2000 when The Rock actually ends up finally beating Triple H and taking the title was a really, really big deal. And I did go back and watch it when I had the network like a year and a half ago before I canceled my subscription because we all know I'm now a WWE hater. But like I went and watched that, and I mean like it's such a good match. And Cal was just talking about Stone Cold and how like everything was stacked against The Rock at Backlash for the title. Like you have Triple H, and then you have the McMahons who are like, refereeing, and he's like, Triple H is his son-in-law, and then, like, it was just a cluster. And then, The Rock is losing, and the crowd is like Rocky, Rocky, and then all of a sudden Stone Cold's intro hits and like the crowd went insane. And then Stone Cold just walks out with a metal chair, you guys, and just everybody that walks up to him is like, whoop, bam, whoop, bam, all the way to the ring. I mean, I just want to put this to you. Wrestling is the greatest thing you will ever watch because how many jobs can you hit your boss in the face with a metal chair and get away with it? The answer is wrestling. He walked right up to Vince McMahon and nailed him in the face with a metal chair. And I just remember being like, oh, I want that job one day. You know, like, but yeah, like I didn't get to watch.
You hit your boss in the face with a chair.
Yeah. True. I didn't get to watch that live. I did watch it many years later. But like, oh man, that match sticks out so clearly in my mind. And I watched everything leading up to it. So like for me, the Triple H Rock feud was like the coup de grace for my age bracket when I was watching.
Yeah, for me, it's really hard to think of like a match because he's had so many ones that are so notable. And a lot of them are being involved with Triple H and Stone Cold because those three guys are just so intertwined in that particular time frame. And but some of the moments I keep floating between the two because they're just so great. One is a bigger moment, one's maybe slightly smaller. The big moment is of course the Jericho and The Rock segment with the debut of Chris Jericho to WWF/E to where we got to see another person who could hang with The Rock on the mic. I didn't know who this long-haired, I don't know, dude coming out of nowhere that everyone seemed to slightly know who that was. I was like, I didn't know he was notably from WCW at the time, but I didn't know at the time that's where he was known from. And to see this guy come out of nowhere and just be able to go toe to toe on the mic with The Rock, not many people could do that, and that they've always had that chemistry with each other as they progress further onto careers and going off their belts with each other as well. Another funny moment that is just I laugh every time I see it is the short sentence between him and Hurricane Helms, with The Rock calling him a green hamburglar, and the Hurricane just being oblivious to The Rock's insults and like, what's up with that? I always had a soft spot for the Hurricane because I thought he was always fun, but those little small moments really just stand out to me even years later.
So yeah, it kind of shows like the vast gamut that we ran, because like yours was like in like promos, and like Nicole's was in connections with other people, like how he like brought out the best in other people in the feuds that he had, and then like mine was like for probably one of the biggest feuds he's had in his whole career throughout, and like, you know, you can't mention like, you know, Stone Cold without The Rock, where, you know, nowadays I don't even know who you could even say had the like Hogan and maybe Macho Man, Hogan Flair kind of things back in the day, and nowadays I don't even know because feuds don't last how they did back then. You know, feuds would go for years back then. You know, now it's like, all right, well, you know, maybe we'll get a few months, and we'll come back to it a few months later, a year later, we'll come back to that feud, but we don't have where it lasts. You know. Yeah.
Or years. They'll have 7 matches in 1 week and we just get tired of it.
Yeah, that too. I can't.
So another thing sorry?
I can't think of any like feuds that have lasted that long nowadays.
Yeah, no.
The only thing I could see carrying, like, and it's been off and on, but it's like a natural thing, is like Miz and Daniel Bryan, right? That's been something that's been going for a while, off and on, but it seemed carrying.
I feel like Charlotte and Becky feuded for like an eternity. Like back in like 16 or whatever. Like I felt like from like 2016 to like 2018, and the only feud that Charlotte had was with Becky. The end.
But now
And it was forever long.
we have a lot more superstars, right? That you could like throw in and out. Back then, it wasn't as big as a roster, so like you'd see this, and people didn't mind it because the product was so good. People didn't mind saying, "Okay, we fight them now." Then we fight them in a steel cage. Then we fight them like a no holds bar. They, you know, like kind of like that. They didn't mind that. Now it's like, hey, why is like what's his name? The Bulgarian Brute. Oh god, I forgot his name already. It's not Rikishi. Rusev. That's it. I need something an R.
It's not Rusev.
Yeah, Rusev. Yeah.
How could you forget Rusev? He's the greatest.
I was thinking of Rikishi for some reason. I have no idea why. I knew it was an R, but yeah, you know, like people are like, why isn't Rusev getting a chance? Why isn't Zack Ryder getting a chance? Kind of like, we don't see like that. So.
Yeah.
Zack Ryder. God, I haven't thought about him in forever.
Yeah, like you said, we don't have a lot of those impacts of feuds that we get to see time and time again, whether it starts at one part of the year and it picks back up later on because we had some intermediary things going on, but we circled back. But The Rock is one of those, I personally don't think we see someone of his ilk. I don't know if we'll see something like that again because of his impact on so many people. So I wanted to pose the question to you guys, like, what do you guys think is his biggest impact? Is it WWE related? Is it entertainment related? Is it personally related to you? Like maybe he had a big impact on your life and that's his biggest impact to you. I guess maybe I'll start this time. I think I think maybe his biggest impact might be his willingness to play ball, and which is what has catapulted him to this stratosphere cannot be touched status, is that he is able to adapt to whatever is thrown at him, whether it be a bad script in wrestling or a bad script in moviedom, that he's able to take what somebody might even not even know how to conduct to the camera and just turn on his charisma and talk to the camera, and you just feel like you're in a room with that guy and we can be friends. And I think he has that likability factor, again, touching all facets of entertainment, all the demographics, to where whatever project he's working on, you even if you may not feel like it's a project you are interested in, you're gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and check it out. And I feel like that has been his biggest impact, is being able to be multifaceted and be able to do a lot of things for different people, if that makes sense.
Gal, you can go.
For me, so, we all know how much he's impacted the WWE, and carried it through the WWF to WWE, because he was the one who cut that promo, get the F out, which meant get the WWF out, but call it WWE now because the whole World Wildlife Fund thing. But, and we know how he's been in the movies. I think him as a person, as Dwayne Johnson, who uses The Rock as a platform, right? Is his biggest impact. And I don't want to ever get political or anything like that, but the thing what he cut the promo, you can call it a promo, but it's more like a plea that he cut not too long ago, maybe a month ago, on Instagram, I guess it was, calling out the president, where are you, right? That's a famous thing, where are you? If you haven't watched that, that's another thing, take notes of all the things I'm telling you to watch. Go back and watch them. That was so impactful, I think, because it was covered, by news outlets, newspapers, media, everything, like, pretty much covered it. Even the WWE talked about it. ESPN talked about it. Various outlets covered it. And it wasn't even like, like scathing or, like that kind of stuff. It was just like, wake up, like smell what the world is cooking right now. And it was, not only, it was more to, the policing, crisis that's going on right now, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, I'm not good with politics and stuff like that, so I don't know what to the words used for it and stuff like that. Police reform makes and all that, Black Lives Matters and all that. But also COVID too, because COVID things are the world's been devastated. The world has been devastated, but the world's been kind of picking up, whereas we're still, amongst the weeds or the running, in the muck, trying to get out of the muck of it. Him being such a big name and just having a simple message, "Where are you?" really touched a lot of people, and really struck a chord, because there's always been rumblings about The Rock, why is The Rock run for president? Because he could probably win. He is the people's champ, as much as people joke about that, he is extremely popular, like everyone's been saying forever. And like people saying he could run with Oprah and that'd be like the best combo ever. I don't know what their politics are and all that, but like he doesn't even try to embrace that. He jokes about it sometimes, and like I think he was asked on one of the talk show, would he ever run? He's like, I don't think I would ever run because I don't have what it takes. I don't have the time for that. I guess he would make time though eventually, like Schwarzenegger did, But that promo, or whatever you want to call it, that plea that he had was probably one of the so simple. Just his voice, the way he presented himself, how he emphasized things. That was like a WWE promo, but he cut on real life, and he cut it on the president. And like I said, he didn't attack him that much, like directly, but he's just saying like, we need a leader. Like, where are you? And a lot of people knock people for using. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but certain types of people knock people for using their platforms, to portray a message. But like, where else are you gonna do it? So. I think that was a very good use of it, and it was done in a very tasteful, powerful way. And I think that's probably the biggest impact he has, because there's the world as a whole, and how much impacts our society as well.
Cool.
That actually, I'm glad Kyle went first, because I'm sorry, I'm still like totally out of breath from my rant earlier, and I'm still coughing, but that was very much along the lines of what I was going to say. I think that The Rock's biggest impact is that he uses his platforms for such good. And you never see him on the end of like drama, and it's one of those things where like you just know that he's a good person. I would say that his biggest influence is that no matter what you're talking to him about, or in interviews, about, yes, at one point, I was sleeping, on a mattress that came out of a garbage thing, and I was, trash diving, and, I had hit rock bottom, if you will. And he always talks about, success and greatness, and the way to get there is through hard work. And that's a message that I really think it expands like so much further than just career, but also into life. And he's so humble, and he basically says that whatever you want to achieve, you chase your own greatness, but the only way you're going to get there is through hard work. And one of the things, like the poster I want on my gym thing, is be the hardest worker in the room. And like that, I mean, obviously it's my gym and I'm the only one in it, but like, so therefore I am the hardest worker in the room.
Unless your mother comes to look at the poster.
That's true, which she probably would just sit there and be like, I'm gonna walk on the treadmill. What? Look at this poster. She probably would. But one of the Rock personally, speaks to me, because I did grow up watching him. I watched him transition from wrestling to movies, and then not just in movies, but then like he suddenly is just like he's this huge fitness icon, which is why he's in my gym, because I love following his fitness on Instagram, and I mean, like, I always joke with everyone about how I want a body like The Rock's, and everyone's like, that's never gonna happen, right? And I'm like, no, I mean, like, but I want muscles like that. and The Rock is just, for me, I think that, he speaks to people on a personal level, and he did for me, but very much what Cal was saying about how influential he is outside of not just acting and fitness and wrestling, but his impact as a person on society is just tremendous. And you can just tell that he is just a good guy. He's just a good person, and there's just not a lot of good people out there anymore, and I think that that's what speaks to people. You know, he's real. He's not going to bullshit you. And that's, you know, he'll be the first one to tell you, yeah, I wanted to be a pro football player. I didn't want to be a wrestler, you know? And then he was like, but that's what I needed to do. So that's what I did. But he found a way to have passion, to be the hardest worker, and to make wrestling work for him. And like, I think that's a great thing. I think he realized he couldn't wrestle forever. So he got into acting. And once again, you know, he found a way to find passion in what he was doing, be the hardest worker. And now look, he's the second highest paid actor in Hollywood. And I think that's a message that a lot of people should hear and should know. And that's his reach.
He is the highest. Right.
Is he?
Yeah,
Is he the highest? I thought he was
highest this year,
second.
last 2
Number
years.
one.
And his work ethic is undeniable, like second to none. Like he wakes up at 4 a.m. to work out, then he'll shoot all day, movies all day, and then he'll like have to produce and go to do a TV show like the Titan Games, whatever it's called, at night, and then sleep for a few hours, then do it again. And his diet, like he has a strict diet that he follows by, but his cheat days are incredible. Like he has like 3 pizzas that he eats fully, like thick crust pizzas.
3 gigantic pizzas.
And like it's ridiculous, but like. And also, he's a good family man too. Because let's not forget, his ex-wife and him are divorced, but they are best friends. And his ex-wife is his agent, still to this day. So that says a testament to his character.
They're so cute.
Yeah, and not to mention his daughter
The
now.
Rock on Instagram, you are missing out. Go follow The Rock on Instagram.
One thing we forgot to mention is that The Rock's was the first 3rd generation athlete. Right now, his daughter Simone is the first 4th generation athlete in the WWE. So. It's just a good like thing, and now there's a tequila brand that he's like endorses and stuff. Like everything he does kind of touches to gold, right? But it's just that work ethic and that the belief that he has. So I hope he stays as kind and humble he is. I hope he is like that in real life. You know, like from that person who told me on the cruise that he was really nice. But I hope he is like that. And God forbid, like if he does ever run for president or anything like that, or anything down in the future, what happens? Like I hope there's not a big scandal, because he's like kind of like that pedestal for a lot of people, you know, and. I hope to God there's no big scandal, because you know in the WWE industry that a lot of things that happen backstage and all that kind of stuff, and that happened with I think another wrestler pretty recently. And then they disputed, like someone got hurt really badly by it, but another one said, "Oh, it's not. Oh, I think it was like Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle's wasn't true." But another one's like I forgot who it was. Joey Ryan maybe that was true. So he got kind of like destroyed, but Matt Riddle's still thriving because his wasn't true. So like anything like that, I kind of tear him on his tequila yet. Thank you. He just everything he does like. It's just beautiful. Like I hope it, like I wish him the best. Not that he needs it anymore, but I just really hope like, even though I'm sure he's set for life, his daughters are set for life. His ex-wife, him and his ex-wife together as a company bought the XFL for $15 million. That's like nothing to them, but like that's incredible by an actual sports. Big investment. Yeah, a sports company. But the fact that they're still good together, that he's his agent, they work together, like it's a beautiful story. Like a lot of people hate paying their wife alimony and all that, but like they just work, still, to this day. So it's great to see. And she was with him coming up through, his times in WWE. So it's glad to see that they're still strong together, because I see him at award shows and stuff like that. And his ex-wife is also there, because like she's his agent, so she's also there. So like it's not like, and the mother of one of her children. So I think one. So yeah, it's just not, it's just beautiful to see that, So if he is like. That how we're talking about the platform. Like I hope he stays that humble, that kind, and there's no controversy behind it, because he could even though we're saying like he's the highest stratosphere of life. Like if he can use that to go further and help everyone else, like that's the ultimate goal for him. I think if he can do that.
And I'm getting jealous not only of Sky's dinner, but also that he has gotten to try Ramana, because apparently it is not sold in stores directly near me, so I have to try to find it somewhere else.
Well, if I ever leave my house and I go to the liquor store, I'm gonna try to find it.
Thank you.
Yeah, same Cal. All my friends are like off partying, and I'm like, no, I don't want to get COVID and die.
That's
I'm
why I just
already
posted on
dying
Facebook.
from. Yeah. Oh, that's right, you did.
And I didn't know it was a TV show. I was like, oh no, that's just really me in real life, like.
Yeah.
I tried finding it in the one store that I was at, but they were sold out, and so
I known that, and if the COVID wasn't going on, and the wedding, and I was still going, I would have tried to find a bottle and bring it if I actually was able to come, Not that I'm not able to, but you know what I mean with COVID and all that. Like,
yeah. No, I will find it. We have the internet, so I will get it somehow, some way.
Because it wouldn't be.
Maybe by
I would say it
by
wouldn't
the
be my
time-
time in Philly if we're not drinking in my hotel room before we go out to go drink at my favorite bar across the street from my hotel room.
Oh, fun times. Remember Friendship?
Mm.
Oh.
Places. Remember going places with
I'm
people?
sure all those places are still closed now, right? For you guys? Like that bar that I
Oh,
like
gosh.
across the street from you, from my hotel. You know what I'm talking about? And the moonshine
No,
place that we went to?
Things are open. A lot of it is like just curbside or at
Oh.
reduced capacity. Yeah. So in theory, we could probably do stuff, but
You guys can come here in Texas. Everything's open because Texans don't think COVID's real.
Yeah.
And they don't think that they can catch it because they're Texans, and Texans are the most American that you can get. And COVID doesn't hurt America because we're America.
well, speaking of hurting, do you think that in this day and age, maybe not in this COVID era, but maybe some point in the future when we can all go to live events again, do you think The Rock, not Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, the persona of that was cultivated in WWE, do you think he could come back and put another hurt in on the new crop of wrestlers, entertainers in the ring? Like, do you think he can still go and still be as entertaining on the mic and in the ring, both in this new era of wrestledom? And will he still be accepted?
Yeah.
I would say yes, absolutely.
It wasn't too long ago he was, right? With the debut of SmackDown on Fox, they called The Rock to be there. And he happened to be in LA, and he was there, right? And he didn't lose a beat. His mic skill, I mean, he didn't wrestle, but his mic skill, no, I don't think he'll ever lose his mic skills. Unless, God forbid, he gets dementia or something like that. Like, I don't think he'll ever lose his mic skills, right? So,
Well, and I doubt that he'd ever lose his wrestling skills. I mean, look at the shape that he's in all the time. And like I said, I mean, he's on my wall, not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but The Rock, because I'm like, that's who I want on my fucking wall, because that's who motivates me. Like, yeah, I absolutely think that The Rock could come back, and as somebody who I don't like it. I don't like it when they bring old people back, okay? I've made that very clear, that I think that they should make room for new talent on the roster, and they should let all the old people go, okay? And I'm not saying, I think that's what should happen. And maybe that's just my millennial being upset at, Gen X and boomers for not preparing for retirement and taking all of my jobs. But, I really do think that the WWE has this problem of banking on names from long ago, and being like, oh, here, and it's like, no, give new talent, promote the talent the way it needs to be promoted, give them the storylines that they need, and let a whole new generation fall in love with new legends, okay? Make new legends. Stop going back and doing the other legends. Even as somebody who is very against bringing so many older wrestlers back, I think that The Rock would still do well because he's The Rock. I still wouldn't be... I'm torn because I would want to go see him because I never got to see him live. But at the same time, there's plenty of new talent, and you can just have The Rock as being a mic man occasionally, like he is now, like coming out with a fucking blowtorch, torching a sign at WrestleMania. Like, that's perfect. That's all he needs to do. But could he do wrestling? I think 100%. I think he physically could do the actual wrestling part. And like Cal said, I mean, his mic skills is never going to go away. So yeah, I think that he could. He absolutely still got it.
I think he could still do the wrestling, but I think the wrestling is different now. I think everyone is more athletic. Like, everyone. Like, look, the big guys are doing, like, cartwheels and moonsaults and all that kind of stuff, landing on their feet. I think it's a different style now that he would have to adapt to, but if they're doing, like, the old school wrestling in the ring, like, the greatest match ever, like, with Randy Orton and Edge, it actually did live up to, like, it wasn't the greatest match ever, but it was a great match, right? We said on AfterMat. But, like, that type of wrestling, like, that he would still do well. But I think today's wrestling with, like, everyone doing flips and all that kind of stuff, that would be harder for him to keep up with. But yeah, like I said, I agree. Mike, 100%, never lose that. But wrestling nowadays, to do today's style, I don't think he can do as well, unless they adapt to his style where they do old school wrestling,
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Is I totally 100% agree with the Mike. Again, because he's just that charismatic. He could, like I said, just say words out of the dictionary and somehow make it work in a promo. But yeah, going off today's standard of wrestling, he would have to work a little bit harder at it because he's still athletic. He's still in tremendous shape, but it's not the same as wrestling shape. That is a different. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not lost on, but it is a different skill set in trying to get your mind back into that rhythm. Again, if you go watch the Edge documentary that I recommended to you, go watch after we saw that Edge and Randy Orton match, you could see that it is more a repetitive. You gotta get in that mindset to be in a ring type of skill set rather than just I'm going to work out. So, but I do think he could do it, and I think he could. Given the time, I think he could work himself up to the level of today, or they could find a compromise to the both of the styles working in the ring. And I think it's because it's still in such great shape that we don't get that old man mentality with him. Because sorry, but unlike Taker and Goldberg, and again they're also much older, but he still is keeping himself in peak physical perfection.
And he's an action movie star. I mean,
Yeah.
he does a lot of his own stunts and stuff. Like he does physicality things that, like the Undertaker can't do anymore.
That's what I'm saying. So with him coming back, I feel like we wouldn't really. I mean, someone would, but we wouldn't really get that. Oh man, you just got the old guy coming back to get that old glory. When honestly, he really would probably just be coming back to put someone over. Because
Brock
he also
Lesnar.
does that really well too.
You know what's funny that you say that? They're actually not that far apart in years.
Really?
Taker's 7 years older, and Goldberg's only 5 years older. So.
Oh.
I honestly, I thought like you, like they were head and shoulders above a lot in age, but they're not. That's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. See, guys, you got to take care of yourselves.
Yeah, well, obviously they don't work out as much as The Rock.
Yeah. But they've also have stayed in the wrestling business a lot longer than The Rock. Because I didn't realize how short of his career compared to a lot of his co-workers were. It was just, 8 years maybe? If even that, 5 years of legit wrestling. I mean, not counting the part-time coming back, doing promos, quick one-off match here and there. I mean, legit, it's just from like 98 to 2004. Do the math. I'm not. No, I'm just kidding. But to also have that great of an impact in such a short amount of time is just amazing, which is why I don't think we're going to see another talent of his caliber, at least maybe like in the wrestling sphere with that so much crossover appeal. Now I guess I can never say never, but I feel like in my lifetime, we won't see it.
I think another thing about him is I think he defies all odds, right? Like or expectation, whatever you want to call it. Like when he first came in, Rocky Die, right? Then he became arguably the greatest superstar of all time. Then the movies, like, oh, that movie sucked, this movie sucked, but now he's like the highest paid actor of all time, right? Of the last 2 years, I should say. Whatever they put in front of him, he just works his ass off, and like it's kind of like that Jordan mentality. If you watch The Last Dance, which is kind of like the last ride that they did for Undertaker, Last Dance for basketball, where like when Jordan was being beaten up by the Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boy Pistons, he wasn't strong enough. So the day after he got eliminated from the playoffs, the next morning, he didn't take any time off on the off season. The next morning, he was in the gym working out to get stronger, so that he can come back the next season and be physically capable enough to compete with the Bad Boy Pistons, and then they end up winning, right? So that's like The Rock. You put anything in front of him, he's gonna work his ass off to get to that thing and be like maybe the best at it. Which,
because he's the hardest worker in the room.
Yeah, exactly. And like, as much as people say like, oh, like, okay, so he's like, he was Rocky Die. Now maybe arguably the greatest wrestler of all time. Then, your movie sucked to being the highest paid actor the last 2 years, and then stuff like even within the movie world, like oh, there's no way he's gonna be better than Jumanji. People might not say the next the reboot's better, but I really loved it. I wouldn't think it was gonna be a terrible movie watching the previews, but I went to see it for The Rock, and I ended up loving it. So like he ends up shattering all your expectations. Like, you know, it's just incredible, and like I think he. So maybe when me saying, oh, he can't hang with these new wrestlers, he'll hear this because he watches the show, obviously, and he'll be like, okay, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna start doing moonsaults and flips and all that kind of stuff, and do all the things these wrestlers do now, just because I can do it. Maybe he'll do that, you know. So.
Maybe he'll come work out at my gym.
Yeah, good thing. Yeah, good point. Entertainment says, what if he turns around the XFL? Because there's also already people. I think Fox, somebody wants to put the XFL back on the air because The Rock is one of the people who bought it, right?
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, I agree. I don't know much about the XFL because I've never watched a game a day in my life. But when you say The Rock's behind it, I'm like, oh, I might just go ahead and check this out now. And I feel like a lot of the, even if you're just a naysayer or just a general consumer of the public, you're like, oh, the Rock's doing XFL. Oh, let's see what this is all about, and could get more fresh eyes, people who maybe have not tuned in before, like me, and be like, oh, I think this is kind of cool. If you know that could happen whenever we get back to those things. But yeah, I agree because it's The Rock. You're like, let's give this a shot.
One thing I do want to say about the XFL though is it did fail once, right? And now failed again. But this second failure was most likely due to COVID, I would have to say. Because I want to say that when the XFL came back, it was a time where the football was over because the Super Bowl ended, right? When XFL came back, it actually exceeded expectations. Not as like, you know, like football ratings, but it did 1.5 times better than they expected it to do. So that's pretty good. So when it first came, well, the second time it came back, I should say, it did 1.5 times better than they expected it to do. So now if The Rock does it, who knows? It might blow up and become one of the best things to watch off season. But it just like saying, like, yeah, thanks for Entertainment for mentioning that, because now people want, like, now companies are like, hey, let's broadcast the XFL because The Rock's behind it. Who knows how much they'll have to do with it, but Titan Games is probably, I think I hear is a very good show that people watch and are behind. So it's just, you attach his name to things, it is pretty amazing.
I watch it.
Is it good?
I literally only watch it because The Rock, like, I watched the premiere and I watch it because of The Rock, but yeah, it is actually really good. They have, like, people from all walks of life that do these, like, really extreme challenges. And I mean, like, it's not like American Ninja Warrior, okay? It's actually, like, cool shit that they're doing. It's stuff that, like, a person who works out regularly can probably do. And it's not just like, oh, look, I can do this really specialized run up this ramp. Like, when are you ever going to have to do that in real life? Never.
When you're running away from the zombies, because after COVID happens, you got to run up zombies.
I guess so. In the Titan games, it's like, drag this 100-pound rock. And it's like, I mean, people drag shit all the time. Like, I'm always like, I gotta, like, groceries and stuff, you know? But no, the Titan games is a lot of fun. If you guys haven't seen it, you should just see if it's on, like, on demand. It's a good time. I was like, hey.
I've only seen one clip of the Charity Witt being, like, the first woman to complete, like, something. I saw that clip. Kind of like when I saw, like, Casey Catanzaro was, like, the first woman to complete the ninja thing, American Ninja Warrior. Basically, those are the ones I've seen.
Yeah, Titan Games is pretty cool. I really like it. It's more of like a strongman meets kind of like American Ninja Warrior, but I'm really into the fact that it's, you know, it's very much like a strongman type of thing, you know. So it gives people who lift heavy a chance, whereas American Ninja Warrior, you know, everybody's lean and, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm a big girl, okay? I'm not built lean. I'm built bulky, and it's nice to know that if I ever wanted to be on a show, I could be on Titan Games.
Welcome, Kitten of Doom, and Kitten of Doom says that some people have to drag bodies, okay, Nicole?
Yeah, well, you wouldn't know because you'd be helping me hide it.
So yeah, I think we can all agree that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a rarity in this business who can hit all of the demographics, can work the mics, be great in the ring, could do the ring announcing well, he's probably done it too, but could do the ring announcing, could be the cameraman, could be the table announcer.
He's done that all in one match, in a single match, so.
Yeah. He can go out and shoot a movie, come back to WWE, still entertain a crowd, and still be humble through it all. And he's really a special, I want to say novelty of a human being that we get to see daily, if you follow him on Instagram, that we get to see play out in front of us on the camera.
Oh, sorry. One thing I forgot to mention is that he also started an organization for, I think, kids with life-threatening diseases. So that, and he's donated to that, and he, helps fund that as well. So that's another thing. So he's also a philanthropist that we actually really didn't go over too much talking about today. But he is he donates to a lot of different charities as well, relief foundations and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Like I said, it's just a lot of goodness that, again, like we said, we don't get to see in a vastness of what's being put on our screens. And so, of course, if we're going to do a wrestler profile of someone, The Rock, he truly is the most electrifying man, not only in sports entertainment, but in entertainment, period, and is well deserving, I think, in all his success. And I'm always excited to see what next project he's going to do. And when he does show up in WWE, whether it be on via satellite or in person, once crowds come back, it's always a special treat. And like I said, I don't know if we'll get another person like him in our lifetime, but if we can, the world is definitely going to be a better place. Any last remark about?
I think we might be able to, because I've lived through Hogan, right, and now The Rock. It was supposed to be Cena. It might still be Cena, right? But I'm not talking about outside of wrestling, but within the wrestling world, coming back and entertaining. I think Cena will end up being that guy when he comes back. Everyone's gonna love seeing him back, even though as much as it's hated, him coming back when that the thing hits, people are gonna love hearing that. So, I think he could be that next guy for wrestling wise, not outside of wrestling, but wrestling wise. Yeah, he's the next thing. That's why he passed the torch to him, kind of. So.
I loved chanting Cena sucks in between his da 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 da, like when he came to, I think it was the Rumble. I think he showed up at the Rumble or something, and it was great. I was like, oh my god, I never thought I was gonna get to sing John Cena sucks, and I am. It was great. I was so
it's just
excited.
like the Kurt Angle "You Suck," right? So it's like that. So.
Exactly.
Right. But yeah,
I was also there when Daniel Bryan came out of retirement. He was in Dallas when he did that, and everybody was yesing, and I was like, boo!
Oh, entertainment
from my box, and I was very unpopular. It was fantastic. Everybody was like,
oh, sorry. I was reading the chat. Where Entertainment says MJF has a solid foundation to be that. Possibly, I mean, it's not a big enough company, I guess, to do that, but yeah, I could see that in him.
Yeah, and he's still, I mean, I wasn't gonna say young age, but young in his outwardly public career. Oh no, because AEW now, since they went public to everyone, we're still getting to know a lot of these people. So he has the potential. I give you that, Entertain, because they do have some really great stars over there. But it's still a kind of wait and see game on what they can do on a more not even just a global impact, but even a countrywide reach of notable stars that when you see the name, you know who that is, without having someone tell you that.
I wonder if I could show I don't think I can show my mom, but I think if I show my dad The Rock, I wonder if he'd know who that is.
You showed your mom The Rock?
No, I'm saying because you said if someone showed a picture of MJF, a lot of people probably wouldn't know who it is. But if you showed the picture of The Rock, but I don't know if my mom would know who The Rock is. I
think your mom would know who it is.
No, I don't think so, because she doesn't like American stuff really. She might know Stone Cold because I used to wear shirts a lot and have and my mom met Stone Cold when he was signing autographs in my mall. So I don't know, but The Rock though, I don't know if she'd know. She's seen his movies, several of his movies, but I don't know if she'll actually know that.
Okay, now I want you to shoot her reaction of you showing her a picture of The Rock to see if she knows.
It'll be like that. I think I saw a video, I didn't even know this, but there's a grandmother, this woman showed a grandmother pictures of Pokemon, and she had to identify them, and she didn't know them. She called, I think, Charmander Hamilton. It's that's Hamilton, and she named him weird things, and MJ, Michael Jordan. Yeah, well, my mom knows Michael Jordan, but she doesn't know he's called Michael Jordan. She thinks his name's Michael Jordache, because back when I was younger, there's a company called Jordache Jeans, so she thought it was based on Michael Jordan, so she calls him Michael Jordache. Her English is not her first language, guys, so
That's the thing. Does he mean Jordan or Michael Jackson?
Probably Michael Jordan. When you say MJ, I don't know. Yeah, I think she'd know who Michael Jackson is, but I don't think she'd know who. I think she knows Michael Jordan as well, but she calls him Michael Jordache. But The Rock, I don't think she knows, even though she's seen the movies. I don't think she knows The Rock. She'll know it's a wrestler, but she won't know it's The Rock.
Or she'll think he's just an actor.
Mm-hmm.
You'll show her a picture of him, and maybe she'll just be like, he's sexy, and that'll be it.
And then Kyle's like, I'm logging out.
Maybe I'll do a thing. I'll put, like, please send me a reaction video of, like, my mom, and I'll put up, like, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, you know, all these other famous people, and see if she knows who they are.
Great.
Well,
I can't do that. My mom knows who they are.
Yeah, my mom doesn't even say Barack Obama's name right. She thinks it's Rock Bomb.
Because my mom's thirsty.
What do you think is what?
She thinks my mom thinks Barack Obama's name is Rock Obama. Because she, you know, like I told you,
Stop
English,
it. That's great.
Her English is not her first language, so maybe if I just show a picture of Barack Obama and like flash it fast to The Rock, she'll be like Rock. Then maybe that's how she'll get it. But like, I don't know.
I want to come have dinner at your house with your parents now.
They are funny.
They're very sweet.
Your mom sounds great. I want to hang out with her.
She's a very good cook too. Sky's always jealous of the food I have.
Well, it depends on what kind of food it is. I'm really white. So my spice level is mustard.
But that concludes our little wrestler profile episode of After Talk today. Yeah, I'm always jealous too, Sky. Me too. He posts really great stuff. And Darwin. I want to cuddle Darwin. I don't know if he would let me though, but I want to.
Darwin's actually super friendly. Didn't you meet him when he came, or was not outside?
Yeah, I didn't get to hold him.
Oh.
We were leaving. But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning into another episode of After Talk. Our little long form talking about that wrestling. We will be hitting you up again later on in the year with another episode. We still got some good plans for that one as well, so always tune in to the socials to know when that's coming about. How about Nikki, since I know you need to be short and sweet, can you tell us where we can find you and where we might find you next coming up?
Yeah, so you guys can find me pretty much on all social media at Rhapsody0607. I am taking a social media hiatus for mental health purposes, which is why I have not been around on really Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. So there's not really a whole lot of upcoming content on my channel as of right now. But yeah, if you do want to interact with me, please feel free to do that. But that's also my Xbox gamer tag. So if you want to like come play Xbox with me, I do that.
All right, Mr. Voice of the Voiceless Cow.
Yeah.
Also the Rock #1 fan.
I'm also taking time off social media as well. So I want to thank Nicole and Alicia for posting things, to promote things as well, for AfterTalk and AfterMat. But I will be back probably in September, most likely, when it comes to that. I'll be back to streaming as well in September for the Avengers on September 4th. But before that, we have a variety of more streams coming up. Multiple streams, I guess I should say, because we have SummerSlam coming up on next Monday. So 1 week from today, we have SummerSlam. All the pay-per-views on Sunday, but we'll be coming AfterMat on Sunday. And then we have another pay-per-view coming up the week right after that, but we'll have to take some time off because Alicia's getting married this weekend, or that weekend. So they're going to be away for a little bit, so we'll mention a time for that as well. But from now on, I think we've all agreed that we're going to start times at 7 p.m. Eastern instead of 7:30 because with school coming back and all that stuff, I'll probably be having to go to bed earlier and stuff to wake up at my ass crack of dawn that I normally do. But yeah, so next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing some SummerSlam, talking about SummerSlam.
You'll never see it coming.
Thank you guys for having me, and sorry for talking you guys' ear off, but you guys know I love The Rock, so...
I was fully aware and was anticipating, because I know we could talk for hours about The Rock, but we didn't want to keep you guys here.
We could not have done an episode on The Rock without you, Cal.
Well, thank you.
He would have shut this channel down if we tried. But also, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and now YouTube at Delicia Renee, and still working on the custom YouTube URL, but it's at the Delisha Renee TV, where I've ventured into the health and wellness sphere. So, maybe come check me out, guys, and see if I am entertaining to you. And like Kyle said, you'll see us again here on next Monday, recapping SummerSlam. This is going to be an interesting one, guys. It's number 3 of the big 4, right?
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully we're not here for the whole night, because ain't nobody got time for that, WWE.
It's gonna be like 500 matches. But yeah, I'm gonna be adding their once they get the customer, or she gets her customer, or I'll add it. But I'm definitely gonna add you to the social media thing. I'm gonna add YouTube to that now that you have a YouTube channel, so we have that.
Yep. So until then, we don't have a tagline of After Talk as we do for After.
You gotta come up with one.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up with one. But in the meantime, as we always say at the end of AfterMat, continue to be kind to each other, not only here in the comments, but in life. There isn't a lot of positivity being shown to the world. We know it's there. So all we ask of you is just be kind in your everyday life, be positive, and
be excellent to one another.
Yes. And we will see you next time here on After Talk, and then again on AfterMat. We love you guys. Stay safe. Wear your mask. Social distance. All that jazz. Good night.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays.